Being just this moment, compassion's way. We say this in the four practice principles. Life as it is. Life as it is means life is the life of the Buddha. Death is the life of the Buddha. As Dogen Zenji says in a fascicle Shoji, being well, life of the Buddha. Being sick, life of the Buddha. And yet, we all notice our reactions when it's not the way we want. At least hopefully we notice them at some point. Because that is what gets us in trouble. Caught holding to all sorts of reactions that blind us to this moment life as it is. Last week, as some of you know, I saw people individually, but at the end of the morning I had to leave, and I did not give a talk. I had to leave because I had COVID, and I only had energy up to a certain point, and then I was too sick to speak. Having COVID is, I had COVID Sunday till Thursday, and fortunately I had medication, or I got medication, and even though the first 3 days were quite hellish, the medication helped, and at the end of the week I felt much better, though still weak. When the Buddha was dying, he laid down in front of his disciples. Many of them were crying that he was dying. And he made a point of emphasizing the importance of them. Some didn't want to face it, of them facing him being there sick. He had been quite ill in the last year of his life. He talked about how he was like an old cart, only held together by tying them together in all sorts of ways. He said the only time he wasn't in pain was when he was in deep meditation, deep samadhi. Nevertheless, he kept on walking in his pilgrimage rounds until he came to the place where he would die. And he emphasized the importance for his disciples of facing him as he was sick, as he was quite ill, body weak, all sorts of illnesses that were quite visible in some ways. It is said that he had terrible intestinal illnesses, and then at the end of his life, he died. It is said to be of some sort of food poisoning, even though he made a point of emphasizing that the person who gave him his last meal, some people wanted to blame him for possibly poisoning the Buddha accidentally with whether it's with mushrooms or with some sort of pork product. And the Buddha said that there were two meals that were most important to him. The first one, before he went into his last period of meditation, before awakening, when he received milk and maybe a milk gruel. And then this last one, this last meal. So he didn't want anyone to regret that. But at the same time, he wanted those who were his disciples, those who were gathered around him, to see that this is the impermanence of being sick when you're sick, dying when that's happening. Because our practice is life as it is this moment. And of course, when there's medication, take medication. I am greatly thrilled that there was Paxlovid, which is the medication that I received for COVID, because for 2 to 3 days I was not able to sleep. I had all sorts of terrible symptoms, and then the medication was wonderful. And yet, life is life of the Buddha. Death is life of the Buddha. We are about being just this moment as is, and noticing how and where we get caught up and reactive to the circumstances. How we get caught up and reactive to the circumstances of our life, or the way others are or aren't. The way others are or aren't. The nature of this universe of ongoing changing is just that, ongoing changing, including even our reactions to the way it is and the way it isn't. But if we become caught in our reactions, in our, if you want to call it, self-centered reactions, then we create trouble and suffering for ourselves, for others, in the midst of this ongoing changing, this impermanence that is nothing but the life of the universe, which is the life of the Buddha. Don't have to explain that. The Buddha, all beings, and the great earth together are just exactly this awakened life, just as is. And our practice is being just as is, and being this is responding as is, and noticing where and what we put in front of our face when we're holding to self-centeredness of, I want it this way and I don't want it that way. Then we miss this life as is. We miss this life that we are and that we and the universe together manifest. We and all beings that we encounter. I don't wish illness on anyone. I don't wish death on anyone. And yet, illness, old age, death come. They're inherent in this impermanence that we are. Getting what we want, wonderful. Getting what we don't want, wonderful. If we become entangled in our reactions to that, right there is our practice opportunity. Our practice opportunity is to be exactly this moment, being just this moment, in all the variations that we are, in all the variations that all the people and beings that we encounter are, and taking care of it. It's not about not taking care of it. Take what medications you find useful or someone you trust recommends when you are ill. And we all are ill in the sense of when we're caught in self-centered dream, when we hold to our reactions as opposed to allowing ourselves being this universe that we are and responding, being just this moment, then we could see and be the response that's called for, because this moment is the whole universe that we are. We aren't just some individual separate from the universe, but everyone we meet is exactly our face, our life, the life of the Buddha that we get to take care of. So please take good care of your practice, of your life, and know that you only meet beings who are nurturing and supporting your life, whether they know it or you know it. And yet don't be blinded, but simply notice caught holding to self-centeredness. So we will end now. Thank you.